Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another Walking Dead video. As you know, we just got episode 2 of Daryl Dixon. So in this one, I'm going to break down the trailer for episode 3. It's crazy to think that after all this waiting, that we're already approaching the halfway point of this season. As you know, the season only has 6 episodes. And that's the biggest complaint, that these seasons could be longer, that they could extend them by at least 2 episodes. It would make a hell of a difference as far as the pacing of the story that we want to hear and see and everything. And it's just insane that we've already reached that point after so long of waiting, after it was delayed from its original summertime slot that we were supposed to get up until just a couple of weeks ago, and now we're already approaching that halfway point. After all of that waiting, we don't have any word on any further Walking Dead content. No idea if Rick and Michonne are going to return. We got Dead City coming out sometime next year. We don't have an official release date yet, but we do have New York Comic Con coming up. And there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumor that Scott Gimple, since he was not able to attend the San Diego Comic Con due to COVID, that he's going to attend this one, and we're supposed to hopefully see some sort of update or some sort of announcement regarding any further Walking Dead spin-offs or anything like that. So I am excited at that prospect, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But for now, we're going to break down the trailer for episode 3 of Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol. And the story is unfolding in a way that I kind of thought it would. And we've already seen some of this suspicious behavior that we saw going on in the background with certain people from the Nest. Carol has made her way to France with Ash, and it kind of solves a couple of little mysteries. Like, I was concerned that we weren't seeing Ash in any more trailers or promo or anything for any further episodes after they made it to France. And I guess my concern was a little bit eased, the fact that Carol asked him to wait back at the place where they had stashed the plane, but I'm still pretty convinced that he's not going to make it. That's just kind of the trend with these types of characters. But we're going to jump in and break down this next episode because we got some stuff coming up, and I think, from the weak start that we got for the season up until episode 2 was, we got this episode 2 that was really good, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of story kind of unfolding. And now we're going to episode 3, and just it's going to confirm a lot of things that I suspected were going on with the Nest, with Madame Genet, and just the things that she's up to. But we got this first image I want to talk about. This is the ceremony that they mentioned towards the end of the episode for Laurent to prove to everybody that he is supposed to be immune to the walker bites, so much so that they're going to bring a walker in and actually have him bite Laurent, and just to see if he survives. And, they're all going kind of hinging on hope at this point, because Lo Sang and his little sidekick, or whoever she is just kind of on this all or nothing faith roll along, or whatever you want to call it, that he will survive the walker bites. It will prove the prophecies true, and he will lead humanity back into civilization and bring back the world, and just all of this stuff that they firmly believe. And they just refuse to let anybody interfere, because they had the whole setup in this last episode where they sent Daryl off with Falou and Emil, who ended up playing a part in the setup, and Isabel kind of was not supposed to be there, and had them set up to be killed, to be dealt with, so they wouldn't interfere with anything that was going on at the Nest. And so we got Lo Sang presenting this ceremony to try and prove all of this, and I just don't think it's going to go the way he thinks it's supposed to, and it's just going to be kind of a shitstorm, basically. Because we got him, saying that they're no longer going to have to worry about the bites from the hungry ones, and just this very kind of delusional way of thinking. And then we got this one shot, it's an aerial shot of Laurent after he's led into this crowd, and we have them with a walker on a stick, because at the end of this last episode, we had Sylvie come upon one of the cooks for the Nest preparing what was Laurent's favorite dish, from what we could kind of get from this last episode. And she's just realizing things are not as they seem, and she starts to follow this person, and comes to find Laurent is still at the Nest. He's not gone missing or been taken like they were led to believe, and it kind of cuts from there. So it has me worried and just kind of wondering, the walker that they're leading out to bite Laurent, is this Sylvie? Because Sylvie and Emil were supposed to be a thing, but Emil turned out to be a traitor to Daryl and Isabel, and he was taken down. So it leaves you just worried, did they go as far as killing Sylvie to prove this point, to be a part of this ceremony? And just, it's going to be a real shock to Isabel and Daryl if that's the case, and it's going to send Daryl just off his fucking rocker, and the things that he's going to do to make these people pay, I just can't imagine. Then moving on to the trailer, we get Carol here. Now, as we know, Carol was picked up by Madame Gene's people, the pouvoir, and she seems to be kind of being forced into taking care of these people, feeding the soldiers or what have you, and her role in all of this is, this is what gets her on Daryl's trail, because in this trailer we see that she's talking to these people and she's trying to figure out any information. Have you heard of the man named Dixon? And so she's really trying to find information out of anybody that might have come across Daryl and, track him down and everything. But we get this next shot, and this shot too is kind of something, because we know at the end of the last episode, Daryl and Isabel, they're kind of beyond the walls and everything of the nest egg, because the water and the tide has come in, so they can't just walk there directly or go as they would before, so they have to wait for the water to recede. And so they're going to sneak their way into the nest because they know Laurent's there, because they know the whole thing was a setup, obviously, because people tried to kill him over it. So we're getting into this situation where Daryl's going to have to fight his way through these people and fight his way just to find Laurent and get him to safety, because Daryl has formed quite a connection with the kid, as we saw in this week's episode, teaching him things like baseball and just trying to form a bond with the kid. So he has some sense of responsibility to him. He's going to do what he needs to get back to him. Then we get back to Carol and her time wherever she is. She's in this prison, and we see Condron. Now, as we know, Condron from the last episode, at the end of it, he was being tortured, and he's being worked over for any information that he might have about where the nest is, where Laurent is, where is Daryl, anything to eliminate these people that might be a threat to her cause or her movement. And in this trailer for the next episode, we see that Carol does come upon him. He responds to the fact that she said Dixon, so he mumbles Daryl Dixon. So that's her first lead to find Daryl and get him and try to get him back home and everything. And with Carol and Condron not knowing each other, of course, Condron might be a little bit reluctant to give away any information, because he could probably think this woman was sitting here by Gene to get information out of him, to find out where these people are, kind of playing on his feelings or playing on his morality or what have you, trying to get what she can to track down these people. But I think in the end, he's obviously going to probably give up this information, realizing that she's genuine, that she is a friend, and she means nobody any harm. And so we're going to see probably a whole nother side of Condron this season, because we saw the vindictive, vengeful side last season, where he was going after Daryl for believing that he was responsible for the death of his brother. And so this season, I think we're going to see a completely different side of him, other than the fact, too, obviously, because he's been tortured, so he's probably a little bit broken down and everything. So it should be interesting to see how he goes about providing this information, because we did see in teasers and trailers for the season, it probably won't end well for him. Because we continue on to the trailer where we see Daryl, like I mentioned, is fighting his way through the nest, but I don't think it ends well for him, as far as he probably does get overwhelmed at some point, because we did see that also in other trailers and promo material, where Daryl is in a lockup situation, him and Isabel both. So I think that he might get captured, and then Isabel maybe tries to even go a little bit further, and that's what gets her captured, and just they get into this locked up situation where they are now unsure of how to proceed. So it should make for an interesting episode to see where this takes them and how far Carol will actually get to finding him and everything. Because this is the shot I was talking about earlier, where we have this shot of this person with this walker guiding it, and if you were to zoom in, it looks a lot like Sylvie. And to think that they would go that far, probably not that unimaginable, because this woman that's whispering in Lo Sang's ear, I just don't trust her, and she just got this crazy, it's going to be my way, or we're going to do away with you too, and she just seems to have just so much bidding on this faith or this prophecy or what have you. So I think she would go as far as to kill Sylvie to prove a point, to prove her faith or what have you, and just I think it's gonna turn into a shit show once Daryl finds out what has become of her, if this is in fact Sylvie. Because we get Laurent being led into this celebration or this ceremony where he looks very unenthused. He knows what he's supposed to do, but I'm sure a part of him wants no part of it. And of course, because they're going to try to let a walker bite him, But it's a very warped way of thinking that these people have. They have so much riding on this prophecy, so much riding on their faith in Laurent and the fact that he's supposed to lead the world back just because he was, understandably, miraculously saved from being removed from his mother's body after she had turned, and that he suffered no real consequences or after effects from that chain of events and everything. So I can understand where they might come from, but this is kind of the extremist way of thinking, and I don't think it's going to end well for them for a lot of reasons, because we get Isabel here probably either reacting to the fact that they're leading Laurent out into this, and maybe she just hasn't been identified, or just something is going on, or maybe this is in fact her reacting in horror as they lead out the walker corpse of Sylvie, and this might be what sends her off and gets her kind of chained up or put away with Daryl before they inevitably break out and rain hell down on these people. But it's probably a very traumatizing situation for her, because we got this conversation that we believe, just because with the way they cut trailers and everything, we believe that it is between Daryl and Losang. Daryl telling him, what if you're wrong, considering what they believe and everything. And I think that Losang is kind of in that spot where he wants to believe, but he has his doubts. But this woman, just like I mentioned, she's whispering in his ear and trying to coerce him one way or another that this is what has to happen. And I think with Daryl there, it's really getting into his head that maybe the prophecy's wrong, and maybe I can't do this to this kid, and it's going to go so poorly for somebody when it comes to Daryl protecting Laurent. Because we have Carol here also just trying to get what information she can out of Condron. Like I mentioned, Condron's probably very reluctant to give up anything, with a bit of paranoia probably to boot, for the fact that he has been beaten and tortured, and he's not willing to give up the location of that place. And also with this episode too, and again, the way these trailers are cut, we don't know if this is what's happening. We have super walkers being kind of thrown back into the mix, and we have Carol, from what we believe, is reacting to them. And this is probably a very shocking situation for her, because we also get this bit that we have seen in other teasers where she jumps this horse and takes off running, but she gets ambushed, where I think she's trying to get the exit from the Pourvoir, and they have all those people lined up waiting for her, ready for her. And I think this is the moment where she gets taken captive once again, and Polly gets a sit down with Madame Genet, as we see here, where she says that she will take her to him. And that is also kind of what leads me to believe that there was some back alley deal made with the Nest, with Losang, and that's why Emile did what he did, that they let him go, they let him get picked up. The whole convoy thing that Daryl had rescued them from was also another setup, and just a way to get into the Nest, to get into how to persuade them and whatnot. So it's all a lot of, mysterious, back alley, treacherous, and just you can't believe anything anybody says right now. So all in all, like I mentioned in my review, the episode was very good. This next one's looking great too. We're definitely picking up from what we got out of the premiere, and as far as Daryl and Carol, when they're going to meet up, I don't know if it's going to happen this episode unless it happens like the last few minutes, but I'm thinking that we may not even see the reunion until episode 4, which is alone a little bit crazy considering how quickly Rick and Michonne reunited within their series. But I think that was more for the story. It was more necessary to drive that story to the home where they wanted to see it and everything. This one, because we know, unfortunately, that season 3 is confirmed and it's going to take place in Spain, so they don't necessarily have to hurry up that reunion, because we know it's going to be a situation where they're not going to turn around and just go right home. They're going to get forced into Spain, and they're going to get kind of detoured or whatever, so it's just a very frustrating type of thing. But anyways, that is my breakdown. Please be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, of course, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Share the channel, share my content, get it out there, help this community grow, and I would appreciate the hell out of it. So until next time, guys, take care. Bye.